Hello everyone, this is Shokora Zouheikyoku aka chocomint, and welcome back to our Let's Play of Sacrarium Gelus. In the last playthrough, we have started off in a really bad situation. And now we are going to try our best to stay alive and perhaps find a cure in the next town. Hopefully we'll survive this trip. Anyway, let's continue. Hopefully the results will be good for us. So last time we ended off with the villagers driving us out of the town without any ways to survive. Like no food, no water, no warm clothes or anything like that. Only just their money and a knife and their bracelets of all parents. So technically, still not really too hopeless, like we actually have money. But that's not going to be enough, I believe. We introduced ourselves to the gods with their bracelet as an offering, and now we have met a crow. Like there are some crows who has been helping us to stay out of trouble, but then there's this crow with a bat on in its beak, so it's suspicious, and we are wondering if it means well or not. But I am a naive person and I saw the bird with the bat on the main screen, so I'm going to go ahead and reach down to take the bat. It was cold to kneel down in the snow. The raven didn't startle when I almost fell. It waited patiently for me to hold out my hand. The small bat rolled out its beak and onto my gloved arm. My hands bounced as the warmth from the bat sank into it. I clenched it in my hands and stood up. For the first time since I've been dragged down off the aborted carry, I felt warmth. Wow, thank you, little, I stared at the old raven, unsure how to address it. Grr. The hair on the back of my neck rose as a low voice drifted in on the wind. What? I looked around in terror. She's a girl. I jumped again and opened my palms. The blue bat in my hand glowed faintly with white light. It dimmed quickly back to a rich blue. The raven was staring at me expectantly. Thank you, little girl. She let out a pleased caw before flying away. Okay. I stared at the bat in my hand. Hello? There was no reply. With my new item in hand, I continued my walk. Occasionally, the bat would flare with life and give me short instructions. Left. Turn around. Right. I felt slightly on edge, taking advice from an unseen presence. The only comfort I had was the slight familiarity of the man's accent. It sounded like mine, but antiquated, like he walked out of the past into the present. The voice was low and surprisingly soft despite being very frank in tone. Each time it spoke, my suspicion grew. Anytime my course wavered, there was a correction swiftly given to me. It was a little too perfect for my taste. Beyond that, the voice did not speak at all. Even when I tried to catch its attention, it remained silent. I wonder what it was, who it was. In the past, they said all crazy mages lived on empty Gelus. Could it be one of them? For now, I adjusted the corrections because I had no other choice. Navigation was practically impossible for me without the stars or a compass. I could only hope that I wasn't being tricked. The voice interrupted my thoughts. High in the nearest great tree. Great tree? I blinked and looked around. One of the great trees was slowly opening up, revealing a small pocket of darkness. I stared at it skeptically. The black trees were obviously evil. I hadn't seen the grey ones move yet. The way it opened looked very similar to a mouth. Hurry. This felt too much like a trap. I hesitated. Hello? The gentle, shaky voice of a young woman echoed on the breeze. Is someone there? Can you help me? Another person. I was dumbfounded. Another person. Here. Do not respond. Get in the tree. I looked down at the bed skeptically again. No ravens were in sight. The raven that gave this to me could have been a devil in disguise. No devil could pretend to be a human though. The divine law of the natural prevented that. Please, I need help. That new voice sounded closer now. Listen to me. The male voice actually showed signs of frustration now. I weighed my options before making a decision. Yeah, I mean, their situation is pretty suspicious. Like, we only have the voice to listen to, so just the scare voice or listen to the voice in the bed. But because spoilers, we can see on the main screen, so hopefully the voice in the bed is a good person. And it's the person I think that is. So listen to the voice in the bed. Thus far, this voice had been my only ally. Yeah, true. It has been guiding you so far, and you haven't met any trouble yet. Yet, I said. So, no trouble so far, so let's continue trusting that. It would be stupid to ignore it now. I moved to the tree as fast as my feeble body could go. Darkness, that lacked an S, but okay. Darkness surrounded me quickly. The seam in the tree mended itself. Once the last bit of sunlight faded, small dots of light began to bob into existence. I watched in fascination as they swirled around me lazily. I reached out to touch one with my fingertip. It buzzed against my finger, warm and alive. My awe at the outside was trembled by the sounds of unnaturally heavy footsteps. Keep your voice low. The voice in the bed was whispering now, so low I could barely hear him. Is that person in danger too? That is not a human. I looked down at the bed. Devils can pretend to be human here. A bolt of dread shot down my back. Of course, things would be different on this cursed mountain. Yeah, I was thinking that. Like, you thought that devils couldn't be human, but it could be. Even if it's pretending. Like, you don't see a figure anywhere, you just hear the voice. That thing is a devil, and it wants to eat you. I shuddered in disgust. Please, hello? Is anyone there? The voice was louder now. Help me! Help me! I shuddered in horror as the voice changed. Before, it sounded kind of young, but not too young. Now it sounded like a frantic child on the verge of tears. Stay calm. The voice in the bed tried to sound soothing. I imagined he didn't want me to freak out and draw attention to this tree. You won't get hurt. I won't let that happen. I gulped and clutched the bed tightly. The voice continued to persist around the tree. It circled around many times. I flinched when something slumped into the tree. Please help me. I'm so hungry. I need help. Don't leave me. Something slammed into another tree nearby. A vexen! The voice roared. The lights in the tree slowly began to gather together into the form of a person. Its intense gaze rendered me speechless. The figure of light looked me up and down. Your condition is deteriorating too fast. You will make it to motor bus. He was matter of fact. I let out a small noise of fear. Phantom fingers brushed against my lips. Shh, I will take care of you. I looked up at the face above me in surprise. You are my guest. It is required of me to do so. You are sick. It is my duty to tend to the sick. The figure pulled its hand away from my face. I can understand if you are skeptical of me, but I am being honest. When this tree releases you, follow the ravens. Hopefully, their cooperation with me will help you feel less anxious. It would. Devils could not make copies of themselves. Devils would not work together. Thus, a flock of ravens would be a good indicator that the voice isn't a devil. Beyond the fact that it just saved my life. Do you understand? The figure looked at me, waiting for my answer. I nodded my head. The pieces had finally clicked together. A male voice that lived on this mountain. A voice that had a duty to the sick and a responsibility to his guests. This was Hymas himself. I felt slightly daft for not realizing it sooner. Good, hold on a bit longer. The figure fell apart into tiny balls of light once more. The presence left, and I was alone again. The devil hunting me took a small eternity to finally drift away. Once a good 20 minutes passed with no sounds of his voice, the tree opened up once more. I sighed in relief at seeing the flock of ravens waiting on me. It really was Hymas himself. They greeted me happily before taking flight and leading the way. My journey shifted course then. Hymas had accepted my greeting, apparently. Hymas had been paying attention to me since, and he'd taken his time to try and guide me to the path. Why? I really couldn't figure it out. I wasn't going to be ungrateful for it though. Of course, a devil had to get in the way and ruin things. If only I had remained undetected, I might have been walking down the mountain towards Rio Fallow in just a few more hours. Now, I was clutching a glass bed like it was my lifeline and walking deeper into empty Gelus. No one had been this far outside of fables and legends. I was making history with each step. I felt terrified, nervous, excited. I'm between excited and nervous, not terrified though, because he has been nice so far. So excited because new things, and nervous because how do you react in front of a god, in a sense. Let's think for excited, why not? I had caught the attention of a god. Sure, he wasn't a god, but his power was obvious enough. He seemed to be willing to help me too. I might get here even closer to home than Riverfellow. Though I didn't know what the price of my cure would be yet. I had to make it to him first. I kept a close eye on the ravens to not lose my way. The ravens circled close to me. One or two even landed on my shoulder periodically to brush the snow off my hat. I was grateful that they were back at all. The walk to where Hymas was took a lot out of me. On more than one occasion, I fell and I struggled to get up. The snow would shoved under me and gingerly set me upright. I would feel the wind carefully wrap around me to ensure I didn't immediately fall again. Once my balance returned, the support would fade to let me walk on my own. A few more times, I must order me to high. Each time, I would be tucked into the safety of a great tree. Each time, I held my breath and tried to ignore the human-sounding voices calling out to me. How can they define the law of the divine? I was mostly mumbling to myself in an attempt to drown out the female wailing I could hear outside. Do you really want to know? Haima's voice sounded calm and collected. It still made me jump a little bit. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Yeah, sure, why not? More information? I do. Empty Gelus is the doorway to the house. Devils pour out onto it when they can. This area is not ruled by divine law, but once they cross the barrier into the world outside, divine law returns. I must let out a pleased noise when I finish his thought. Gods, no wonder the stories talk of shape changers on this mountain. The bed went quiet once more. Once the wailing devil had passed, I was released to continue my walk. My journey took a long time. As night fell across empty Gelus, the temperature plummeted. My legs grew too stiff to move, and I ended up stuck in place. No matter how warm the bed made me feel, it couldn't melt the force beginning to grow on my clothes. Exhaustion, dehydration, and hunger also made me feel weaker. I can't move any further. It felt bad to admit out loud, but it was the truth. The bed remained dark for some time. Then, it glowed, and I felt Haima's presence once more. The snow beneath me began to shift. I watched in fascination as a host of stone rose under me. I squeaked in surprise and would have fallen off it if it weren't for Bruce holding my legs in place. The earth elemental let out a grinding noise that mimicked the neigh of a horse. Amazing! I ran my hand along its neck, marveling at the way it vibrated. If it weren't for the fact it was made of stone, I might have thought it was a real horse in the dark. Once I was situated, it began to jog casually through the snow. With a small bob and surge of energy, flames began to bob into existence around me. They hovered nearby, slowly warming me up. I let out a sigh of relief. The stone horse moved much faster than I had. Being an entity of pure elemental power, it didn't need to rest either. It was slightly comical how much ground the beast could cover compared to my awkward shuffling. I wonder why Hymas didn't just start with this. Maybe it takes some chunk of his power? And I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. At least I didn't have to navigate in the dark. I had no lantern, no torch. Stumbling around out here would probably send me face first into one of the black trees. The terrain grew harsher and harsher the further up the mountain we journeyed. I could feel my body angling awkwardly with the shove. I doubted I would have been able to make this climb on my own. I batted the horse's neck in things. After a ride long enough to make my legs ache, the crowd began to flatten to a gentle incline. The mouth of a cave rested on the mountainside. Soft ruins glowed faintly with power, and despite the constant snow, the stone floors within were exposed. The horse beneath me began to crumble. Gently, I was led up its back and onto my feet once more. I could hear the sounds of the ravens nearby. One landed on my shoulder. Awkwardly, I shifted in the darkness. I wondered if I should call out to him. "Woman!" I looked at the raven in confusion. That made no sense. None of the other ravens added to it, meaning I wasn't sure what to do. In the end, I only had two options. I called out to him or I waited for him. Yeah, let's wait it. He said moment, so wait. It seemed too rude to demand his immediate attention. A living god probably had other things to do besides babysitting some random human. I turned my arms under my armpits and waited. Soon, small pits of light began to light up in the dark. I hear the sound of bare feet walking on stone. Finally, a barefoot appeared in the moonlight. Oh, he's not wearing shoes. Oh, hello there, Sir Freddy. Woo! Hello there. Pretty. Anyway. Beautiful silver white curls poured over thin shoulders. Bits of eyes froze some off the ends, and the glint of golden bells poked out here and there. Two rays light with gold thread framed a sharp face. A crown of eyes only made him seem even taller. Unnaturally blue eyes stared at me, unblinking. His white lashes were covered in furs, and parts of his skin were blue with the cold. He didn't seem bothered by it in the slightest. Light violet lips pulled into a thin line while he examined me. He had to slouch slightly to avoid hitting his head on the roof of the cave. The people of Motherwell were said to be descendants of giants, and seeing how he towered over me, I thought it to be true. As he observed me, he untucked his hands from his lips. One was normal, a bite covered in folds and tinted light blue. He chewed his nails. It was a very human quirk. The other hand didn't even look human. It appeared to be out of eyes and warped black branches. It was still hand-shaped, but his fingers ended in sharp claws. Oh really? I couldn't see the other hand. The inhuman hand was quickly tucked out of sight behind him. Thank you for your patience. Okay, hello there, Freddy. Okay, I can see the kind of normal but still not really normal hand, and the black hand hidden behind the hand when he holds his hands together. So pretty. Ooh. Ooh. Anyway, Hymus gave me a slight bow. Something had come up that required immediately total attention. It's okay, it happens. Still, I apologize. It is a rude thing to do to a guest. Hymus straightened and looked me up and down. Come inside, you're very weak. Hymus gestured for me to join him. I eagerly walked up to him. If he was startled by my behavior, he didn't show it. We entered the dark hallway of the cave. Hymus kept pace with me despite his long legs. His human hand hovered awkwardly in the air along my upper back. I could tell he planned on grabbing me if I fell. It was comforting to know I wouldn't slam face first into the stone floor. I wonder what kind of place a living god would drown in. Would it be a vast temple carved from stone? Maybe it would be some mystical gathering of arcane energy. It might very well have frozen over wasteland devoid of human comforts. As the light at the end of the tunnel grew brighter, my questions were answered. The main antechamber we entered was cozy. Very cozy. Nice. Pretty place. Simple furniture rested in front of a blazing hearth. The room was brown, and the walls were obviously cave walls. A few tapestries hung here and there, and a few documents were also stuck to the walls. Books were scattered about on the floor too. A mixture of dark hallways and closed doors dotted the walls. To my surprise, it was warm in here. I stared at the surprisingly mundane and human-like abode. I expected something different. A bit. I tried my best to not sound as surprised as I felt. I prefer mortal comforts like anyone else. Hymus gestured to the cushion bench. Take off your outer layers and settle there after leaving your clothes near the fire. You're soaked through in some places. I must eye me up and down. Nothing I have will fit you easily, but I can modify something. Of course, nothing will fit me easily. He was a Mortavalo and easily 7 feet tall. Are you able to move your hands enough to deal with buttons? I think so. Just being near the fire was making my hands feel alive again. Very well. Let me know if you have trouble. Hymus drifted into one of the doors and locked me to my own devices. I managed to get my fingers warm enough to start taking off my outer layers. While they had been a blessing outside, they were practically suffocating now. My shuddering slowly began to calm down and pass. Nausea and a headache remained. The mark on my back pulled and ached. I pressed my fingers to my wrist, reveling in my pulse, fast and nervous. Hyman still wasn't back from the room he entered. Perhaps I could use this time to look around? Maybe not. I don't think that's a good idea. It would be rude to look around in someone's house, actually, so let's settle down on the cushions. There was no good reason to go poking around in someone else's home, even if that someone else was a living god. Actually, especially because that someone was a living god. While the space could be a treasure trove of unique finds, I had no desire to end up like the heroes in the old stories. Could they really be called heroes though? Most of them were thieves technically. I stared into the fire and enjoyed the warmth. Exhaustion and fatigue pulled my eyes closed despite my best attempts to stay awake. Sometime later, I awoke while coughing. A cup of water is beside you. I opened my eyes and saw that a blanket had been wrapped around my shoulders. A large clay cup of water did rest nearby my feet. I drank it slowly to avoid making my nausea worse. Once my throat felt less like sandpaper, I wiped my mouth and turned to look at Hymas. He sat on the table in front of me, idly writing something into a massive tome. The tome was busting at the seams and only held together with leather thread. Papers had been shoved into it as well. Their stains and wear on it show constant use. There's no way I have that many symptoms. You are correct. You don't. Hymas tucked his quill behind his ear and closed the tome. This is the journal for my main study. I'm always working on it. He put it aside and held up a single piece of paper with a rough sketch of a human figure. These are my notes on you thus far. They are minimal due to you sleeping. Sorry. It's fine. It's a natural response for a sick body to want to sleep. He frowned at my pile of clothing nearby, especially one that hasn't been wearing the rubber embroidery. Did your village remove all of your rune embroidery before you were cast out? That seems particularly cruel. I blinked at him in confusion. Only the modern world people can use rune embroidery. Yes, I am aware. It looked like I was both confusing him and very stupid flicker across his face. Your clothing has the basic Stygian and common materials for all people's attire, but you're missing the important parts. Oh, I'm not a Motorola. Hymas cocked his head at me. Oh, he looks surprised. Oh, he's so expressive though. His eyes, his face, his eyes is very expressive. I like that. What? Well, I suppose if you're from a village. What have the southern barbarians finally established some holdings? He rolled his eyes at the idea. The realization hit me like a hammer. You don't know. Don't know what? Hymas, what is the last thing you heard about Mordorwell? There were some small southern border threats for the barbarians. I must shut. I grimaced. I must lean forward upon realizing I knew something more. Why do you ask? I must. Motherwell was overtaken by the southern barbarians a long time ago. I might as well have stopped him. He recoiled back from me and sat up perfectly straight. What? How? From what I remember, Motherwell refused to surrender after their defeat. So they, I hesitated. Killed themselves. Yes, the southern barbarians are too cruel to be prisoners of. I meant, how did we lose? He sounded so surprised. The first emperor had taken over everywhere else, so his army was pretty big by that point. I see. Hymus stared down at his hands for a few moments. I see. The repetition was sadder this time. His gaze focused on the floor. Oh. How do you not know your people are gone? I'm sorry you found out like this. It was bound to happen eventually. Hymus focused his eyes on me and gave me a small, grateful nod. That revelation aside, he moved on from the pain with a professional attitude. Oh yeah, that really sucks for him, huh? He looked back down at the paper. The temperature did make your condition worsen. I have also taken notes on what I could see in your soul. You can look into my soul? Not in the way you think. Human souls are like extra organs in my eyes. I can see the stands, the cuts, the wounds, but nothing metaphysical like damnation or emotions. I see. Really? Well enough, I think. It's an odd concept, I am aware. Hymus dismissed the train of thought with a wave of his hand. I still need to examine your curse mark though. The physical evidence on your body will help determine what can be done. That makes sense. I stood up from the beach and turned around. My shirt slid up my back easily to reveal the mark in question. This is going to be an uncomfortable suggestion, so I apologize. Please step back towards me. I can't quite see the mark from here. I realized what he meant when I took a step back. It was a little awkward standing in front of him and exposing my lower back while he was sitting down. It felt oddly intimate in an uncomfortable way. I see what you mean. My apologies. I will work quickly. I nodded. Hymus examined the mark while making a few notes. Alright, I'm done. He nudged for me to step away from him. I did so and let my shirt fall back down. I turned to face him. He used his quill to gesture to the door he went into earlier. Technically, that is my bedroom. I do not, however, have a guest room, so for now, it will be yours. You can go change in there. Where will you sleep then? My library over here. He shrugged. I rarely sleep to begin with. Don't you need sleep? No. While I am usually happy to answer questions, I need time to think. I was tempted to ask him if my situation was that serious. The intense look on his face while he wrote stopped me. I went to the room to change. It was a simple room with simple furniture. Like everywhere else, papers and books were scattered around. A small hearth burned in one corner of the room to keep it warm. I enjoyed that warmth while changing into my borrowed clothes. It hung awkwardly in places but was dry, light and cozy. My fingers strayed across the embroidered underlayers curiously. No one in the empire knew how to make runes out of breath. If we could, it would make survival easier in Anatole. It made me wonder just how many miracles were stored in this place. Hymus had hundreds of years to gather powerful items and knowledge. He was practically hoarding it. Some part of me wondered if he had the right to do that. What was the point in gathering all this information for himself? It could do so much good in the right hands. I could do so much good if I got my hands on some of it. I ruminated on the thought. I dismissed the thought. Yeah, no, that's not. Bad thought. That's pretty. I mean, there's a reason to do that. And also, it's his, the information that he gathered and everything. So he's allowed to do whatever he wants. So, dismissed that thought. I was making too many assumptions. For one, I didn't know if he never sent out information. Some stories did tell of ravens carrying cures after all. Beyond that, who knew just how dangerous some of this stuff could be? Just because it might do good in some hands doesn't mean everyone would use it for good. Besides that, I didn't like where that line of thoughts was going. Trying to steal from Hymus resulted in tragedy every time. I wasn't eager to join the fables as another example of human arrogance. Human? Hymus' voice interrupted my thinking. I had partially closed the door, but he could have easily just opened it. Instead, he waited. I'm decent. Hymus entered then. He looked me up and down. What?
Okay. It looks good on you.
Don't sound too surprised now.
Why are you blushing, sir?
I just didn't expect it. He shrugged. Of course it'll look good on me. I'm wearing it.
Oh my god. That's not it. Oh my god. That's not assisting.
Hymus surprised me with a chuckle. Hey.
You. Oh, okay.
Whatever keeps your confidence high. Rude. Irrelevant. Your condition. We need to discuss it. I hate to say it, but you are in a bad spot. I knew that already. Take whatever your idea of bad is and worsen it tenfold. I frowned and sat down on the edge of the bed. That bad? Yes, that bad. The good news is that it is not divine retribution, so I can help you. I sighed in relief. The bad news is that the window for the easiest solution has passed. Easiest solution? Yes, there was a solution as simple as pulling it out. Why can't you do that now? It will kill you. What can we do then? Could you explain how? How much do you know about how curse marks work? Not a lot. I admitted with complete honesty. Hymus nodded and continued. We shall use our metaphor then. A curse mark is initially like a bird bite. It sticks, but the venom can be drained from the body. But it must be done within a few days. That's the easy solution? Yes. If it is not removed in a few days, the venom burns through the material into the immaterial. Explain that last bit to me, please. It goes from your body to your soul. I thought curse marks started in the soul and then into the body. That is the incorrect teachings of the barbarian church. It is the reverse. I see. Devils cannot just touch your soul. They would run rampant otherwise. It takes time. The venom needs to burn a wound into your soul to begin affecting it. The puncture wound is the mark that is now complete on your back. I reached a hand back and touched the mark. Indeed, the circle was finished now. I hadn't noticed. If I were to pour it out now, the hole it would leave behind would be catastrophic on your body. Think of it like ripping an arrow out of an artery. Blood everywhere until you wither and died. I grimaced at the mental image. The image is kind of a typo, but okay. So what can be done then? How do we fix it after that early window has closed? The mage or priest in question pulls a shard of their own power out. This process takes time as the shard must be beaten and carefully built up over time. Then, that shard is put into the patient, forcing out the curse and sealing the hole in one motion. The wound left by a curse mark will never heal naturally without one. So like ripping an arrow out and packing the wound with gauze? Something better than mere gauze, but yes. We call these creations panaceas. They can even cure normal disease. They also force the wound to the soul to shut, meaning you won't be left mum for the rest of your life. Will you be making me a panacea? Or will you teach me how to make one myself? You have no arcane talent in you, so I will make it. Rejection! He frowned. There is a small problem in our way though. Oh, of course there is. It will take me longer than normal to make a panacea for you. Up to a month, more than likely. I'll die before it's me. No, you won't. I can keep you alive during the process. I can also give you medicine to make being alive during it not so miserable. You can survive this. I sat on the offer for a few moments. It's your only option. You won't survive the trek to wherever you were going. I get to stay here for a whole month? While your body tries to kill you, yes. I know that. It's just amazing. Okay, I'll stay here. Good. Welcome. He waited for me to supply my name. Cassadine. Welcome, Cassadine. A lot of people just call me Cass though. I will stick with Cassadine for now. Rejection again. Please feel free to make yourself comfortable in the bed. I will bring some food for you to eat before you rest. But first, come here. Hymus held out his inhuman hand. I stared at it for a second before stepping towards it. The cool tip of one of his claws pressed against my forehead. I could feel a cold sensation wrap around my head twice. With a faint burn, something was embraced onto my forehead. To make sure you don't die. Hymus pulled his hand back. I reached up to touch it, but I couldn't feel any kind of mark. All that lingered was the mild chill that had settled into my skull. I've got a rough idea of your condition. I will add medication to your food as well. That way, when the symptoms begin to worsen, it won't be as bad. If you take the medicine, refuse it, and you will suffer. Understand? I do. Good. I must turn and left the room then. My time at the Sacrarium had begun. And that should be a good spot to pause for later today. Despite saying it's a short visual novel game, it turns out pretty long. Or maybe I'm just really slow at reading. I don't know, but it's really nice so far. So we ended up with staying with the god in the Sacrarium. He was very nice and surprisingly emotional. Like, not emotional in the sense that he has a lot of feelings or something, but the expression on his face is really clear. Not a lot of like pride grin or something like that, but his eyes are very expressive. I really like it. And he's very pretty too, so pretty. His has been very kind in helping us out too. And the bat turned out to be his voice, so something to communicate to us. Generally, the main point of this playthrough is that we find out the god is very nice and he will help us, and we get to stay in his aquarium for a month. Nice. Hopefully, we will maybe get to know him better, maybe, or at least survive. I'm hopeful for it. Anyway, that should be all for our playthrough today, and I'll see you on the next playthrough of Sacrarium Gelus. Bye bye!